I love you very much.
Even if you date over a period of like 5 years with the same guy, still you're not saving everything. It makes it so much more special on your wedding day when you can say, I have my first kiss, I have my first.
We just love them for what they are, not because they're on TV, you know, and
Hey guys, it's Katie from Without a Crystal Ball. Welcome back to my channel. It's Tuesday, December 14th. If you are Anna Duggar, and you had a new life where you had to consider what you were going to do with your 7 kids and where you were going to live and where you were going to go and what was next, I'm sure it's a very challenging time for her. It's also probably pretty tough when you don't know whether or not you believe there's anything to what happened to your husband. You could be hanging on a thread believing all of the lies and believing that everything was a setup. So Anna Duggar, before everything happened, had really been focused on that Josh was innocent and that, you know, they were going to get him off and everything was going to go on and life was going to be peachy and everything would be fine. I don't know that she actually prepared for what happened next, and here we are, because in the weeks before everything went down, she was actually having some arguments with some of her in-laws, like about the fact that she wouldn't see the writing on the wall with what was happening with Josh. And today, I'm finding out that there could be some new things that are going to happen in relation to Josh and Anna. Now, I spoke to a source like last night and I said, well, what do you think Anna's going to do? Do you think she's going to move? Do you think she's going to stay? And the person I spoke to said that they believe that for now, Anna is not likely to leave, that she might in the future maybe go stay with her parents, or she could go with one of her siblings. But for now, while all of this is still being ironed out and while they're still likely to file appeals, that she is inclined to stay where she's at because she can then go visit Josh. Now, I don't know if she will. That was the speculation by the person I spoke to, but they didn't expect that she was going to be moving anytime soon. As far as I know, she's still staying in the warehouse that has been converted into a guest house for the Duggars, and she is there with the kids. Now, what's going on with Josh is that he is still going to be staying in Washington County, where they go when they're waiting after they've done things. And he has his own room because there's concerns. And I mean room, you know what I mean? Like a 3x5. I mean, they're bigger than that, but you know what I mean? He's in his own little area in solitary, and that's for his protection. And while he's getting acclimated there, they have a lot of reports that they have to do in the courtroom. And so the prosecutors actually spoke with People magazine, and they talked about like what can they expect for sentencing for Josh and what is that going to look like. And you know, there's been so much talk on YouTube between like all the different lawyers about, you know, it could be this and it could be that, and we could be looking for this and we could be looking at that. And right now, when the prosecutor had spoken to People magazine, they basically made it sound like even though one of the counts had been stayed, that they could still consider that for the overall total of his sentence. And they basically said that he could ultimately, if the judge decided, he could be sentenced to 40 years. That's, again, up to the judge. So the way that they described it is that they have some reports to write, which are going to look at all the pretrial things, like any of his factors that they would go into play. So Clay Folks, he said that he could still face up to 40 years in prison, even though one of them has been stayed. The judge can decide to sentence him to the whole thing. This is what he said. The sentence will really be on the most serious offense that he was convicted of. Now the court can consider both, and the court can consider everything that happened at the trial and everything that will be in the pre-sentence report in fashioning a sentence. So they will put together a report, the prosecutors, which will outline all of the factors that they believe initiate or indicate what the number should be for Josh. So they're going to be looking at priors, they're going to be looking at the ages, they're going to be looking at what he was doing, how he acted in court, did he show remorse, was he defiant, really all of these different things. And then on top of that, they can make an example of him because of who he is. So they said that they stated the case is symbolic and an example to the district that no one is above the law. So what he said to people was this is, so that's one thing that we can say makes this case an important milestone, because not only does it show that no one is above the law, but it also shows how important these cases are to our district and how this is just one among many CA and CP cases that we brought over the last several years. They have all of these different factors they're going to look at. Now, one of these factors is, what happened with his sisters, but then there's also this other looming question about his own children. So when I had Rebecca Rouse, who's an attorney, on my channel last week, we had talked about, what could happen with his kids now that there is this solid Josh has been convicted. She had estimated that there would be a court-ordered assessment of the kids at that point because they had denied pretrial ones. Well, I actually spoke to someone today connected to the case who told me that the prosecutors do intend to request that a court-ordered assessment be done on the kids. So with any of these cases, there's always a concern that the person who has been participating in the CSAM might also be producing it, because in the peer-to-peer networks, these kinds of people typically share content. And so in order to be a member of them, you have to actually upload and share. Remember that thing in the trial when he said, were they uploading or downloading? That's sort of around that question. And then remember how they took pictures of his hands? That's another factor, is did they find something in there that there was a photograph of a hand, something that sort of indicated that Josh could have contributed, or are they looking to see if they can find any things that Josh contributed? Well, they know based on experience that a lot of times people like Josh will create their own and upload it into the groups. And then usually if they have children, they will use their own children for the content they make. Because of that, there's a need then by the court to either rule out or rule in if the children have been safe, or if the children are safe. So at this point, I was told that they plan to file a motion. I was told that the judge, they've asked the judge to order a full exam of all of the kids. So they want them to do cognitive and forensics and to figure out if any of the kids are at risk because of what Josh was involved in. After that, and if there is any indication that something happened, then that can lead to a whole nother thing with additional charges. And it could also bring up child custody issues for Anna because she declined the pretrial screens. So they are going to move forward with that, my source says. And they also said, when I spoke to them, I said, do you think the judge would be inclined to order this and say that, yes, this will be ordered by the court? And the person I spoke to said in their experience, they had never seen a judge decline this, especially in a case like this. So the plans for the prosecutors are to request a court-ordered assessment of Josh and Anna's kids, which obviously can, if the news is not good, make things very difficult for Anna, which then circles us back to what is going to Anna do right now. My guess, based on what's happening still with the case, is she's not going to go anywhere. I believe that because there's stuff going on with Jana and one of her daughters, and now there is this looming potential of more involvement with DHS, that she's not going to be able to leave until it's either determined one way or the other, whether or not, if nothing happened to the kids and everything's fine, my guess is that everything would remain the same with Anna. If something is deemed to have happened to the kids, that can make things a lot different, more difficult for Anna. Then there's also this whole factor of, did Anna actually dump the kids at the Duggars and make them take care of them so she could stay with Josh? And is that going to impact them while they're evaluating the children? And did she really have the children's best interests at heart? And then with Jana's case, which makes it even more complicated, if Jana was taking care of one of Josh Duggar's kids and something happened, could that then impact, say, if Jana were not to have custody of the kids anymore, could that impact the Duggars then being able to take care of the kids? Like Rebecca had said last week, she did not believe that the Duggars would have the capabilities of taking the kids based on what happened with their own daughters. But again, speculation. What is not speculation, according to my source, is that they are going to ask for these evaluations to take place. So there is also one other thing we should talk about, and that's Josh Duggar's fines. So he not only is facing years in prison, he's also facing fines, up to $250,000 per charge. And because of that, the feds in his indictment basically said that, like, your assets, if you move them, if you hide them, we will find out, especially if you owe us money. So there was a forfeiture, which they already took his computer. But if they looked at his assets and found that he was making money in this world, which at this point they've not said anything else about that, so I don't know that he was. But with the fines, they were very specific that if you are trying to hide assets from us to avoid paying fines, we will find what happened with your money. Which is something we talked about before everything went down, was that Josh was moving a lot of money around through various LLCs. He had opened up like 6 or 7 total in the last year. He was moving properties and selling properties, which is all fine and good. But at the same time, like, why do you have 7 separate LLCs opened? And he, as the case was getting closer, was sort of liquidating some of those assets. He sold a property, and, this whole can of worms about these LLCs could become an issue if they find out that he took properties out of his name, put them in Anna's purposely to avoid the fines or to have to pay the fines. In these types of cases, if the stuff is in Anna's name, it does not matter. It would considered because they're married and because they share all property in the state of Arkansas, what is Anna's is Josh's. And so even if everything is in Anna's name, they will still take it. And if they find out that he specifically put it in Anna's name to avoid any sort of money to have to pay the fine, they're still going to take it from Anna. So they have risk right now of not only issues with their children, but then now they have these issues of their money, and if they are hiding money or trying to hide money to avoid the fines. So there's that aspect. And that actually opens another can of worms of Josh and Jim Bob's entanglements in business and all of the LLCs between the Duggars and the Josh and Jim Bob. They have been in business together for years. And so, if Josh and Jim have been flipping properties back and forth and doing things like that, that could also be evaluated to, again, determine whether or not they're trying to move money to avoid fines. Interestingly, during the same period of time, Jim Bob actually put all of the properties in Michelle's name and put all of his properties into a trust, which I thought was really weird. But Jim Bob is not under investigation for anything at this point that I know of. So, if they were to find something during what they're looking for Josh, I'm sure it would get forwarded to maybe like the IRS or something. But at this point, Jim Bob is not the focus of any investigations. Josh Duggar's, on the other hand, they could start looking at his financials as they're looking for the money for the fines and figure out, oh, there's other stuff going on. So really, this is kind of a starting point. It could mean nothing, and it could be more time, ultimately. So Josh Duggar's kids, they're ordering this. The fines, they're going to have to look into the LLCs. And then finally, Jim Bob Duggar is telling people that Josh paid for his defense. I was told that he is trying to pacify his daughters by allegedly telling them that he did not pay for Josh to defend himself and that Josh actually paid for everything himself. I don't know how Josh would have funded that, either through sales of property or whatever. And I don't even know if that's true. If it's coming out of Jim Bob's mouth, I'm like, is it even half true? Tiny true? Like, maybe Jim Bob was like, here's the property. You can sell it and then pay for your defense. You know what I'm saying? So Jim Bob is trying to pacify the kids and say, I didn't pay for his defense. I had nothing to do with it. Allegedly. So what are your thoughts about this? Do you think this could mean more for Josh in the coming days? What do you think about Anna staying hunkered down? And do you think that this is a good idea to have the kids evaluated? And what do you think your estimation for what this sentence will look like? Tell me in the comments below. Bye, guys.